Stay tuned for another episode of the Coming Soon podcast with Spider.
Hey everybody, Spider here once again, Coming Soon podcast, San Antonio, Texas, being joined by Kadin McElwain. My man, how are you doing today, bro?
I'm doing very well, Mario. Thanks for having me.
No, like, well, thank you for jumping on, man. I know we had a little hiccup yesterday. Work, they had me stay late, so it kind of bumped up my what I had scheduled. But I appreciate you jumping on today, man. It is Friday, and of course, you're doing great, right?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. I'm just glad the weekend's done.
No. I hear you, man. Now, of course, I looked you up. You had sent me some links as far as some of the past podcasts, and I gotta say, bro. Are you trying to break a Guinness World Record for most podcast interviews or what? Now, you got quite a bit, man.
Uh, I don't know if there's a Guinness World Record out there, but I might set one. No, I'm just a guy who really believes in his cause.
No, and of course that cause, man. Tell us a little bit about this autism, being an activist for autism, man. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as sure you saw in a lot of the interviews, I was diagnosed with autism when I was 2 years old, and during that time frame of 2006 when I was first diagnosed, and now I've had a lot of naysayers who questioned my capabilities because of the stigma surrounding autism. Even today, there are still those stigmas, which I really don't get. But thanks to an amazing set of parents and my overall work ethic, I was able to prove those naysayers wrong. And during my grade school years and high school years, I noticed that autism wasn't really taken seriously, autism and special needs. And as an autistic individual, I was the first-hand victim of that. In middle school, my IEP services, individualized education plan, that was completely cut off without my parents' knowledge or consent.
Wow.
Actually, illegal in this country. I learned that on another show I was on that comes out soon. So my parents fought hard to get that back. They wrote to various autism organizations in the state we were in, Tennessee, around that time, and even a state senator, because they knew that I needed those services.
Yeah.
I truly did. And in high school, I've had a lot of minor incidents of snitching and bullying because of misunderstandings surrounding autism. The high school didn't even know I had autism until one very severe incident. I can't really say because out of respect for what happened and to keep things PG, of course. But it was weird. Academically, I was doing completely fine, and I wasn't in any severe trouble like suspension and expulsion level. In fact, I strongly despise people like that who like getting suspended and expelled for funsies. Then COVID happened. I had to go online, which was extremely hard for me since I had my routine. I liked my routine, and I didn't want things to change, which is common in people with autism.
Right.
And I later figured out I thrived in an online environment. Then, senior year, the pandemic was calming down, and I was back in the classroom briefly, but a COVID exposure happened on my end. I was exposed to COVID, so I had to follow their procedure of staying home for a week, which I hated because I was one of those people who really liked school. Like, I loved it. I was always studying, always getting good grades, apart from math, which was common for me, which has always been a kryptonite for me. It still is, honestly, even in college, which is where I'm at now.
Right.
And when I asked for accommodations of, hey, can you send me the assignment so I don't miss anything? Some of the teachers went off on me like, oh, we're not in COVID anymore. Sorry, you don't get those accommodations. So that was strike one of me thinking, hey, maybe I should go online permanently.
Right.
Then the final straw was a bullying incident involving an LGBTQ student. I was a big advocate and supporter of the LGBTQ community. I still am. So that was the final straw for me because the school did nothing to help the student. To be fair, this was in Tennessee, so you had to adhere to the Southern guidelines. But I asked my parents, hey, is it cool if I go online permanently based on these two things that happened in the school. So they obliged, and I actually was able to graduate early in 2022 on Valentine's Day, to be exact.
Oh,
Thanks
nice.
with honors as well, surprisingly. Then I started college, and this is where my advocacy work truly began. It was 2022, December to be exact. I was in a leadership class, and we had an assignment: think of a way to help the community and act upon it. So my group and I set up a GoFundMe for the Autism Society of America, and we ended up raising over $1,000 for it,
Nice.
and we won a contest with it. But I noticed, as typical with my generation, the TikTok generation, my group only wanted to do the assignment to get the grade and the prize money we got.
Right.
And their hearts truly were into it. I did all the work pretty much, which led to me even losing a whole night of sleep
Yeah.
because I was stressing about getting a good grade at the time. But after we won the prize money, I noticed a pattern throughout my life: autism not taken seriously, autism not taken seriously, not taken seriously, schools not doing their jobs,
Yeah.
not seeing autism in the news as often as we should. So I figured, hey, if no one else is going to fight for this cause, I might as well be it. So that class project led to all these opportunities for me, appearing on various platforms to tell my story and spread my cause, planning out fundraisers for my community for some of my favorite organizations, uh, planning Christmas drives for special needs kids, basically anything and everything you could think of that had to do with autism, I did it. It's not easy, but I truly believe in the cause. In fact, next Monday, I'll be meeting with some people in power in Houston virtually to discuss legislation they can pass to better help the autism community.
Oh, wow, man. So you're really, really into it, man. I mean, that's a great cause, of course. I mean, this is something that has affected you personally. Now, other than yourself, I mean, in your family, are there other autistic family members?
There is. My cousin's actually on the autism spectrum, but he's a bit more lower functioning than me, and he didn't have the strong, supportive set of parents that I had. I consider myself lucky because I had the resources. I
Yeah.
had a supportive set of parents who didn't let me into the trap of Gen Z laziness and act like an animal for your cause on a public property or any of that. They said, if you believe in the cause, act upon it. And if you want something, you work for it and you don't give up until you get exactly what you want. The
Nice.
cousin
Well,
I have, his mom kicked him to the curb pretty much. And now he
wow.
has a child that was taken away by the state due to a very horrible girlfriend of his. He has an animal cruelty charge to his name, and he's on the run, Alabama
Oh,
currently.
wow.
And I look at that and I think that could have happened to me at any
Yeah.
time, had I not had the strong support system I do. So I think situations like that make me humble to be as high functioning as I am and to be in the position I am.
No, no, for sure, man. And kudos to your parents for supporting you like that, man. Because obviously, I mean, like you said, you could have been in the worst situation. I mean, you could have just nobody could have been hearing you or caring what you're thinking, and you would have been at home in your room suffering, just not being able to do anything. But the fact that your parents supported you, the fact that you're a fighter, bro, I gotta respect that. Yeah, I mean, that's a great cause, like I said. So, man, a lot of respect, man.
Thank you, sir.
Now, let me ask you because, of course, I mean, going to college, you're a writer. So let's talk about this writing. I mean, what is it? How did that come about? I mean, were you writing as a kid? Is this something that you've been wanting to do?
Hmm. Well, it started when I was 11 years old, writing poetry on this social media site called All Poetry. Of course, incognito, without my parents' consent or knowledge about the whole thing, because I was particularly smart for my age. They had a strict no social media rule, but somehow I managed to slip past it a bit with various sites and Facebook and Twitter also when I was 16 years
Yeah.
old. But I was writing poetry on the site when I was 11 years old, was super good at it. And then I was in cross country in high school. I was 14 and I wrote an article about my team winning the state championship
Nice.
for the second year in a row for this site called the Sports Column. And I figured, hey, I could make this a regular thing. So between the ages of 14 and now, I have over 400 articles published on that site. Many of them including scenes from scripts I wrote. I published scripts on there too relating to sports. And I've had some pretty cool opportunities thanks to that. My articles have appeared in one newspaper, particularly the Daily News Herald, I think it's called, about 3 times during my career. I've interviewed various athletes, James Hagler, who's Marvin Hagler's son, Joe
Oh
Fraser
wow.
Jr., Joe Fraser's son,
Hey
Michael
man.
Alvarez, who's an MMA fighter, and I even had the opportunity last year to interview Dolphins great Richmond Webb.
Dude, okay, man, you're doing better than I am, bro. That's pretty cool, man.
Yes, sir.
Now,
And recently I've branched out into op-eds talking about my experiences with autism and advocating for that cause.
man, well, let me say because of course, for example, the color blue. I looked it up because I was curious to see as far as as far as autism, because I've heard about it, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there's a lot that I don't know. Just like you said yourself. I mean, there's a lot of fake, not so much fake news, but just not everybody's affected the same way. So people just think autism, and they kind of put you guys in the same you know section or sector or whatnot. But I mean, but I looked it up, and of course, blues, to raise awareness, towards autism. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna get educated, man. That's why I was curious to have you on here and have you educate me on what it is that autism, is. I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, aren't sure. I mean, how does it affect everyday people?
Hmm. Well, it depends on the spectrum you're on.
Yeah.
If you're higher functioning, which is where I'm at, it means you're incredibly intelligent, but you're just socially awkward and you need help with the social stuff. And apparently, you have trouble getting into REM sleep. I learned that this week, so I've been trying a little experiment where I go to bed at the same time every night, which is around 10 o'clock for me, which I think would be like 9 o'clock over where you're
Right.
at. So, and I noticed that, yeah, I have had trouble getting REM sleep. So maybe next week I'll try going to bed even earlier and seeing what happens. But that was interesting for me to learn. But if you're on the lower end, you can't walk, you can't talk, most likely. You have trouble with social cues, definitely. You can't maintain yourself. And unfortunately, for a lot of these people, they have to be taken care of for the rest of their lives, which is
Yes.
honestly really sad to
Right.
see. One of my goals I'm hoping for with this advocacy work is to somehow find a way to make those who are lower functioning higher functioning. I think with today's medical technology, we have those capabilities now. But the problem is, people don't put this in the spotlight enough. And you would think in today's inclusive DEI society that they would do that. But nope. We're focused on TikTok bans or drag show bans or giving people like P. Diddy a platform to do whatever they want and get
Right.
away with it just because they're famous. And we're focused on petty rap beefs like Kendrick and Drake
Right.
when there are bigger fish to fry.
No, man. Well, let me say this because, of course, when it comes to autism, I mean, like you said, there's different spectrums. For myself, I mean, I've worked with people that had autism. I've never known anybody as far as like growing up, and I always wondered, do you yourself know where that comes from? Because it just seems like I'll be 50 this year. I'm old. I'm up there. So it just seems like it's something that's affected the younger generation a lot more lately. So, I mean, have you looked into that? Have you researched that? And as far as like where or how this came about or is coming about?
Hmm. I think my generation, while their intentions are good, they don't have the best approach to advocacy work like most people do, like I do. In my opinion, advocacy work, yeah, Tiffany, it's genetic, and I also think it might be related to the food we and the chemicals and nastiness that's in there. I think those chemicals might cause it as well.
Right.
Oh, but I think more research should be done about that. But my generation's approach to advocacy work isn't really the best. Their definition of advocacy is moaning and groaning and whining and complaining on social media platforms, trying to ruin people's careers, and
Right.
even worse, acting like wild animals on college campuses and public places and thinking that's okay.
Right.
My approach is be kind to people, go on various platforms to tell your story instead of making a fuss on social media that people aren't doing enough. Take action, and if people don't want things to change and don't think your movement's worth it, just be like, sorry, bro, no one's interested in your feelings, and don't give them the time of day.
Yeah. No, no, no. I hear you, man. You see, and that's those are sort of things that I have. I have kids. They're 24 and 20, and for the most part, I want to say I raised them well. Their work ethic is strong. I mean, in the beginning, they kind of struggled as far as like they were going through that little phase where people were just leaving their jobs every other week, and I finally had to sit down with them and tell them, like everywhere you go, you're gonna have to work. It's one thing if you have to put up with abuse and physically, emotionally, verbally. I said, but if it's work, I said, if you show up and you clock in and you got to work, I said, guess what? You got to work. I said, there's job descriptions when it comes. You go apply somewhere and they're gonna tell you, okay, well, you know what, you're gonna be on here, but we might need you to do this or this, and this is part of the job. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's wrong or right, but I know what I went through, and I know I'm a strong worker. Everywhere I've gone, like I've always been held up high because of my work ethic. Always being there. You know, um, but it's each their own. I think I commented one time about somebody's work ethic as far as them not being then people. As literally like what I just said, as far as them, people jumping and quitting, and somebody was like, oh, well, they know their limits, and I'm like thinking, okay, what is their limits? Work until somebody tells you to work, and then you quit. Like, yeah, I mean, like for me personally, I would like to say I'm strong mentally and physically, because I've been through the ringer, man. I mean, I've had jobs, when I started at the post office, a lot of the managers then were literally like drill sergeants, and one of the somebody had said like, oh, hey man, we're not at war anymore, and I was thinking like, man, in their head they probably still are, I mean, because the service is one of those things where they break you down and build you up, but it's like when you leave, there's no breakdown. They just like, okay, you're retired, you're free. You go to work as a civilian, and it's just, but it's each their own, man. I mean, I do what I do. I mean, I don't expect people to work as much as I do or as hard as I do, but at the same time, I don't want to be ridiculed and be bullied on my end, saying, oh, well, this guy's always working too hard, because that's happened, bro. I've been in jobs and people complain saying, I'm working too hard, I'm working too fast, and I'm like, man, like I'm not rushing anybody. Y'all stay at y'all's pace, and that's that. But I mean, those are my 2 cents as far as what you just said. For the kids, the generation where they feel entitled, they want to cancel things that they don't understand or don't want to understand. But I mean, for me, it's I pick my battles, and that's one of the things I told my kids. I said, you got to pick your battles. You can't fight everything, because you're never gonna end up fighting or stop fighting. But if once you find something that you feel strongly about, like yourself, then by all means, pursue that, fight it. Get your cause out there, and definitely get your two cents out, because I mean, you saying you're going to Houston, and of course that's here in Texas, and talking about changing legislative law. I mean, that's big, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I don't even, I'm 50, and I don't think I've ever even thought about changing any laws. As much as I've, like many Americans out there, we think, oh man, this shouldn't happen anymore. They shouldn't do this. Like we don't do anything about it, but you are. So, I have a lot of respect for that, man.
Thank you, sir.
Now, let me ask you. I mean, you going to Houston? I mean, how are you going to be getting out there, man? Are your parents taking you?
Oh, oh no. I meant I'll be going there virtually via
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Teams. I can't really fly out to Houston, walk into the mayor's office, and demand speak with
Knock
them
on the
on
door.
rogue college student for one, and that would be rude for two. There's a
Oh
process
yeah.
for that, but it'll be virtual. How
Okay.
talk with some of his representatives and say, hey, change needs to be done, and
Yeah.
I think it can start at the state level. And if this spreads and goes state by state, then hopefully we finally see some change in the world, and much needed at that as well. Look at the state of this country and the world for that
Yeah.
matter too. It's terrifying. I don't even go on Twitter anymore
Yeah.
or
Oh
most
yeah,
social
man.
media because all I see is negative, negative, negative.
Yeah. No, you see, and I was gonna say this because of the whole election thing. I mean, of course, there's candidates running for presidency. I think it's a perfect time for you to go on the state level and actually change that law because a lot of these people want votes. So if they see a great cause and they see somebody as strong as you wanting this change, and I mean, it might happen. That's one of those things. I mean, you get enough people behind you to support and let them know, like, okay, I mean you see you're going to go out there virtually when it comes to meeting these candidate or as far as uh what is it, like legislative, right?
E- yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Okay,
Legislative.
well, you see, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think what, once you're out there, you should get information, get an email, and just start asking people to email. Let them know, like, hey, okay, there's a lot of people that feel strongly about this, and once they see those numbers climbing, they're gonna think, okay, yeah, maybe we should do something, because, I mean, you show you doing this and throwing that cause out there and letting them know. I mean, that's great, and by all means, I mean, I tip my hat to you, man. I give you a lot of respect for that. But I mean, having people behind you and actually, sending emails and contacting them through their social media outlets, of course, that's going to turn heads. So, get that info out there, man. I'd definitely be willing to be one of those people supporting you, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now, let me ask you. Of course, you talked about writing. Have you written anything? I mean, of course, you've been writing since you were younger. I mean, you're still young. You're still a young man, but I mean, when you were younger, you started writing. But have you written anything? Are you looking to publish anything out there?
Hmm. Yeah, I've written a lot of articles, but eventually I want to compile a book of every article I've ever written, every interview I've ever done,
Oh,
and
nice.
sell it on Amazon. But the problem is, you can't really put that out there without a good publishing company
Yeah.
in your corner. And of course, they demand a fee before you publish
Oh, yeah.
anything or send anything to them. I looked it up. There's no free publishing companies. And of course, as the saying goes, nothing is free in life.
No, no, no. I agree, man. And of course, one of the things I on top of this, I mean, the Coming Soon podcast is basically I cover when it comes to writers, authors, filmmakers, directors, actors. So I'm always out there looking for content when it comes to art form. Just somebody being able to entertain and create art, whichever which way it is. But on my other podcast is actually it's actually this right here, the Fight Card podcast. So I interview fighters, I interview boxers, I interview kickboxers, MMA fighters. You've already interviewed a few, so I said, okay, that's pretty cool, man. I mean, I've been, covering combat sports for over 15 years, man, here in Texas. So I know a lot of people, I know a lot of coaches, managers. Uh, when it comes to matchmakers, man, I mean, I've been networking like that, like crazy. So that's pretty cool, man. I'm glad that you were out there interviewing some of these fighters, boxers. You said you had an MMA guy out there you interviewed. Are you looking to interview any more fighters, bro?
Hmm. I'm hoping to eventually interview some someone in the UFC,
Yeah,
and or even a representative of Jake Paul or Mike Tyson.
yeah,
That might seem unrealistic since I'm more underground, but if I can get one of those guys,
yeah.
I think that would be the most viral story of 2024.
Man, I think you should shoot for it, man. I mean, a lot of those guys, of course, they have people that do all their footwork when it comes to arranging interviews, but the contacts are out there. I personally don't know people. I mean, as far as Jake Paul, I know he's fighting Mike Tyson here in Texas. But I'll dig around, man. I'll see if I can find something for you and send you some info. That way you can start emailing some of these people and but let me ask you this: since we're on that note, Jake Paul is fighting Mike Tyson. Now, who do you think's gonna win, bro?
Hmm. Well, this is a unique one because I've followed Jake since Nate Robinson, and I think he's improving.
Yeah,
But the problem is, he's still choosing people within his comfort zone.
right.
The old, retired, washed up fighters, the basketball players, the YouTubers. I think the two most serious fighters he's done was that one former Golden Gloves champ. What was his name? Warren something. I
Oh,
don't
okay. I know
remember.
what you're
It's been
talking
a
about.
while since I've watched one of his matches. And that August character. But Mike Tyson, he's been in the industry since the 90s.
Yeah.
He's a legend. And he still has that powerful punch.
Oh
So
yeah.
it could go
Muscle
either way.
memory. You see, and then this is for me. This is one of those because somebody had asked me, and people ask me all the time, or they've asked me like, "Hey, who do you think's gonna win?" And I say it depends. Um, if Jake Paul wins, it's gonna be for money. If Mike Tyson wins, it's just gonna be because that guy's a beast. I mean, he's older, but he's got that muscle memory where even just a jab, I know it's gonna hurt. So it's just a matter of who it's a matter of who's gonna want to make more money because of course if Jake Paul wins and they might do a rematch and then you know what I mean. So it's all about publicity. I mean, he says he's brought a lot more eyes to boxing because he's been doing this, and maybe but it hasn't been boxing at a level where a lot of the guys that are doing it, for real, like as far as their professional boxers, have been, he is registered professionally, so I'll give him that. But the guys that have been fighting since they were little kids, building their name up, it's got its pros and cons. I mean, of course, there is a chance he could be a world heavyweight champion someday. I mean, he's got the money, he's got the time to train. But I mean, just the fact that he started calling all these retired fighters, MMA guys that had no hands, and winning, and it's just anybody can throw a punch, and at any time can somebody get knocked out, man. That's the bottom line. Whether they can take a shot or not, that's a different question. Mike Tyson can take a shot. He's older. I wouldn't say he's slower because I've seen him boxing, shadow boxing, and that guy's still quick. But it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I won't pay to watch it. I think it's gonna be on Netflix, I believe. But
Yeah, Netflix.
yeah, so I'll watch the highlights. I'm not gonna sit there and watch the whole thing, but it might not even go that many rounds, man. We'll see. But yeah, man, I'm gonna dig up and I'm gonna see if I can find you somebody, man, because I would definitely be wanting for you to interview one of those cats. I've done media. I did the Mayweather and Canelo hype meet and greet here. They did their panel here in San Antonio. I was able to get a media pass. I was standing right in front of Mayweather talking to him. I got to meet Canelo, and that was one of those things like I would have never thought it would have happened. It did. I was covering fighters already, but I mean, you never know, man. There's opportunities out there, and a lot of times that's what I tell people now. There's an opportunity, I'm gonna jump on it. I'm that guy where if we were to meet on the street and you were like, hey, you want to do an interview, I'd be like, man, let's go. Like I'm not gonna say no. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna go with it. It happened with Mayweather. They were like, hey, you want to interview him? And I'm like, yeah, man. And for the record, I lost that freaking video, man. So I don't have the interview, but I did interview the guy right there and then. It's just like, I mean, I wasn't gonna say no, and I knew about him. I knew enough to ask, and I think I even brought up the whole MMA thing, and he was like, "Man, that's not even in the same sport, man." And he kind of just brushed it off. So, but that was cool, man. And of course, I mean, for me, being able to do this and talk to people, every day, I would have never met you otherwise, man. So it's cool, I appreciate you jumping on this and the fact that you have this cause and you're fighting for it, man. I always tell people if you don't fight for something, you're gonna die for nothing. So, that's a great fight you got there, man.
Thank you, sir.
Now, of course, what else do you have going on, man? I mean, of course, you're an activist for autism, man. But I mean, when it comes to life, I mean, what is it that you end up doing at home? I mean, music. What kind of music do you listen to, bro?
Pretty much everything and everything. Today, this one artist called Sabuzi just released his
Okay.
new album. He's a country star. He has a song called Bar Song that's really good.
Oh, okay.
So I've been listening to that album. He knows what he's doing. But mainly since I'm home for college from college until August when the new school year starts, I've been trying to find summer work. I've focused mainly on virtual opportunities
Right.
and a couple of farm jobs, so I think I should be good. Which reminds me, I got a text the latest guy I found once this interview's done.
Yeah.
But I've been mainly working. I've been trying to save up some money so I can pay down my student loans now, so I can function as a human being in the United States come graduation.
Smart, smart, man. Well, that's great, man. I mean, right off the bat, I mean, I can honestly say, me as a kid, I mean, out of high school, I went to a community college. I did 2 semesters. I wasn't planning ahead, man. I mean, I was one of those guys where I just lived life every day. And the way I was living back then, it wasn't smart. I didn't think I'd live long enough to be 20 something, 30, 40. Here I am, so it's just like, yeah, definitely plan ahead, ahead of the game and prepare yourself, man, because of course you want to be able to relax, retire later, as soon as you're able to retire and just enjoy life. But one of the things I've done is, I've worked as a letter carrier. I was a postal employee 15 years. I've worked with big companies. I've done a lot in my life, and I'm grateful because there's a lot of people that I've met. I've worked in Florida, I've worked in Atlanta, Georgia, here in San Antonio, of course, different jobs, working with all types of people, and it's just one of the things I always tell everybody. It's like, oh, I told my kids actually one time too, but I said, you know what? I said, I've always wanted to travel the world, but God knew I couldn't do it. So he brought everybody to me because I've met people from all over the world, man. And it's pretty surreal.
Yeah, I think it's the same way with Facebook. You don't need to go on a plane or
No.
waste money away to go to a vacation or film content anymore. You can do everything on your computer or on your phone.
Yeah.
That's the one thing COVID blessed us with is it opened our eyes to how far technology has come.
No, no, for sure, man. And it's changing. Who knows how much it's gonna change in 10 years. I mean, you know, uh sure, when I think it was in 2002, maybe. Maybe it was like late 90s, but I was working for this company here locally, and we used to repair those beepers. Remember, you keep hearing about those pagers, like people would beep you or take page you or whatever. And like a few months in, like they called us into a meeting and they're like, hey, we're gonna start repairing cell phones. Nobody had cell phones. Like this was like before so we're like, okay, they gave us a weekend of training, and we started getting them in and started repairing them, and they tell us like, hey, you know what, we have an option, for those that are working here. If you're employed, you can get a program and you can get your own cell phone. So everybody signed up, man. All of us were like, yeah, I want a cell phone. And as soon as we get that cell phone, we're calling each other like idiots. Hey, man, what's going on? We're freaking out because that was like, the future, right? Well,
Right.
after 30 days, we all got our bill. And as soon as we got our bill, we all we all got rid of our phone, bro. It was like 200 and something dollars. And it was crazy. And we were like, what? Like, now, so we got rid of it. We were like, dude, that's too much, and of course, years later it got cheaper and now it's affordable. But in the beginning, it was high, it was pricey. It's just one of those things. Not everybody could afford it. But those that could, you kind of had to pick and choose. But yeah, man, technology. I mean, social media. I mean, the platform. TikTok. I'm on there and I can't figure that thing out, bro. So I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. To get on there. Oh, you say you don't even get on there anymore, right?
Mm, well, they're talking about banning it
Yeah.
currently. They passed the bill and Biden signed it into office. But we're still on it. We're just enjoying it while we can.
Yeah.
As I said, there are bigger fish to fry in the world, in my opinion. But we just gotta go along with it. I mean, maybe if this ban actually passes officially, I might somehow find a way to download it and defy the ban as an act of
Yeah.
protest. But I don't know if that's even possible if the thing actually passes officially. I think it might be unworkable,
Yeah.
but I'm a guy who follows law, so if they actually do ban it and take it away from the App Store, I might maybe try to find a way around it, because as they say, don't knock it till you try it. What are
Yeah.
they going to do? Arrest me? Swat me around my house and say you're under arrest for disobedience of a ban?
Right. For TikToking.
Yeah, but
Oh
if I
man.
can't find a way around it, I'll just go along with it. That's all you can do these days.
No, no, of course. And I mean, there's so many platforms out there. I mean, X or Twitter, whatever it was called. Now that I don't think that many people are on there. They have threads. I don't even know if that's a thing, right now. But I mean, there's other platforms. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to see how people would react, especially if they were to get rid of it. Like what platform everybody would jump on. Because obviously they're gonna want something to jump on and be able to keep doing what they're doing. But we'll see, man. We'll see. I mean, of course, like you said, there's bigger fish to fry. The fact that there's so many bad things here, in the U.S. in general, all over the world. But I mean, here in the U.S., a lot of things that we got to change, that we got to work on. One of the things, and I'll say this because I've met, I do, I'm a contract delivery driver. I deliver furniture, and a lot of times I deliver to the elderly. And a lot of these people, they live like, man, they budget. They don't get big money when it comes to unemployment or social security, I'm sorry, or when it comes to retirement. And one of the things I always hear is how they struggle, because they're like, man, I've been saving up like 4 months by this recliner. Every month they save $20, whatever. But the biggest thing is that a lot of them still get taxed. A lot of them still, their taxes on their homes, they keep going up. And I personally feel like, what, there should be an age limit to where, say somebody's 65 years of age and that they don't pay taxes anymore. They're at that age. It's like, what, let them enjoy their retirement, let them enjoy their remaining years, man. Because I mean, of course, who wants to be 75, 80-year old, still working, still paying tax? You know what I mean? That's too much, man. I mean, if you've already done your time in being young and working in the workforce, then that's something I would fight for. Let them enjoy their retirement, man. I mean, bottom line.
I I think that's a great idea. Yeah, honestly, it should be from college age or younger. You don't have to pay taxes,
Yeah.
and once you graduate, you go into the workforce. You pay your taxes, hold your end of the deal
Yeah.
to society, do your job, and then I'd say 50 or older, you never have to pay taxes again, and you
Yeah.
can live a happy, healthy life. If you still want to work, you totally can,
Yeah.
but you keep all the money.
No, yeah. You see, and I mean, of course, we're gonna pay taxes when it comes to you buy something, there's a tax. You pay something, there's a tax. Those I can deal with. But when it comes to them taking money out, out at the end of the year, when it comes to your house, you spend your whole life buying something, and now you're like, you don't own it. The state can still take it away from you if you don't pay your taxes, man. And I just think that's wrong. But yeah. Maybe I'll be out there. Maybe I'll petition about that, dude. Because yeah, that's one of the things I've always, I would deliver furniture, especially recliners. There was always a recliner, and hearing them talk and saying like, oh, I've been saving, and I'd be like, you know what, I would deliver the recliner. I set it up, and I'm like, man, it's paid in full. You don't have to pay me. I do it for free, man, because it's just like, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna take their money away from them. They already sacrifice, and they've already done their time, and they saved 4 months to buy one, and here I am charging them. I said, nah, man. I said, you know what, let's consider it a gift. I'm gonna pay it forward, and hopefully when I'm that age, somebody will do that for me, man.
I love that.
No, no, for sure. I mean, like you said, we got to be kind. We got to be kind to each other, man. I mean, we're not all gonna agree with everything, and that's kind of like what I said earlier when I told my kids, you got to pick your fights. It's like, for example, like say I'm in a, I'm on the road, somebody's on the side of the road, they have a flat. Am I going to go up to him and say, hey, who did you vote for? Are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? I mean, I'm not going to ask nothing. I'm just going to help them because that's a good thing, the right thing to do. And that's the way we should treat everyday life, man. Every day, it's like you got coworkers. I don't talk politics. I don't talk religion. It's just like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be kind because that's what I want to do. Return, they do the same thing, and everybody's happy. Everybody goes home, and it's Friday, let's enjoy the weekend and get ready for the next week, for the grind. But yeah, man, it's just, I mean, if there's something out there you feel strongly for, like yourself, then by all means, go out there and fight that cause and stand up for what you believe. Because if you don't stand up for it, nobody else is going to do it. So for sure, man. I mean, but yeah, bro. But I'm glad you jumped on here, man. I mean, I know, like I said, I'm gonna look into the Guinness records, bro. I'm gonna see if there's somebody that's on the Guinness Book of World Records for most podcast interviews, man. Because if not, I think you should shoot for it, man.
Yeah, I'd totally be down.
Dude, for sure, man. But bro, I appreciate you, man. I mean, you know what? We're gonna pick up this conversation, man. I definitely wouldn't mind bringing you back. When is it that you're gonna be talking to the legislator as far as in Houston?
I would say it'll be June 3rd, next Monday.
Oh, okay. Well, sure, man. Well, you know what? We'll talk after Monday, man. We'll talk. We'll see how that went, and dude, we'll jump back on this, dude. We'll jump back on and see what else we can come up with. In the meantime, I do know a lot of fighters, bro. When it comes to MMA, I got some fighters in the UFC. I'll talk to them and see if they'd be down for an interview, man. And I'll pick at the Jake Paul or Mike Tyson and see if I can get you not so much a press conference, but get you something, man. I mean, because heck, why shouldn't you interview Mike Tyson? Especially I said Mike Tyson, bro. I mean, Jake Paul, I get it, man. This y'all's generation, but if I can get you somebody, I'm gonna see if I can get Mike for you, bro.
Absolutely, that'd be great. Thank you, Mar.
No, not a problem, man. Don't hang up yet, brother. Everybody out there, of course, once again, Kadin, McElwain, thank you. This is Spider Coming Soon Podcast. Till next time, follow up.